So that #1 protest song that the whole world is talking about. Here you go, y'all.
What do you say to a game of tennis?
Come on, Grandma.
Okay, I'll get my racket. On second thought, I think I better sit this one out.
You crapped your pants again, didn't you?
I just don't feel confident.
Look at this, Jack. Here we are. Oops, I crapped my pants. You see, it's got a big tag. Unlike my DOJ, these don't leak.
How do you know so much about how I crap my pants?
I'm reading them.
Oh yeah. Once again, feel free, Yona, motherfucking feel. Yeah, this song is POTUS XL, the B.I. Some of that Joseph Robin and Biden Jr. act. I get a rock hard when I'm sniffing kids. Dog on alley, suck both of my son's dick. Yeah, I pooped on myself. I pooped on myself. I get a rock hard boner when I'm sniffing kids. Daughter on house sucking both of my son's dick. Yeah, I pooped on myself. I pooped on myself. I said my son is a crackhead, but I'm the president. I pooped on myself. I pooped on myself. But I wrote the damn crime bill. I pooped on myself. I get a rock hard boner when I'm sniffing kids. Daughter on alley sucking both of my son's dick. Yeah, I pooped on myself. I pooped on myself. My son is a crackhead, but I'm the president. I pooped on myself. I pooped on myself. My son is a crackhead and I'm the president. Pooped on myself.
Can you see it? Yep, you can kind of see the diaper pad there. I got quite a few kids myself who wear diapers. I have multiple kids right now.
Welcome to the Doom Kitchen. This is not a news show. It's a talk show. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. We are not responsible for the actions of our listeners. You are responsible for you. If anything offends you, we were only joking. Promise.
Welcome to the Doom Kitchen. DJ High Yona. Welcome to the show.
Oh yeah.
The number one protest song, telling the truth about adult diapers. I
Sadly,
really love
that song is based on true and actual events. It's true and actual events that song's based on. Sadly.
The usage of chick 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 in there was awesome. I'm sitting here grooving to it. It's cool because I got to book in the show with 2 songs from you. So from the beginning I get all hyped, from the dancey rhythms here.
And and here in the middle of it, we can even do some live. Just play something, sing something for you live. We might even keep it Biden themed. I might do that Hunter Biden song, White House Crack Pipe. That's a good one. That's a good one. Crowd favorite there. I mean, it helps when you choose rich, influential parents. Remember that, all you poor kids.
I have a theory on all this stuff that he's pissing off the people that really run the world. The ones that have all the sexual blackmail on everyone, because they made the media run cover for this laptop that's it's full of legitimate terrible things. You find Ashley's diary and find out that he's done some horrible things to his daughter, and it decreases. It's like he's not just ruining our money; he's ruining their money, and their money being sexual blackmail he's putting himself in a really dangerous spot.
Well, it also, the whole thing about money laundering is it's supposed to be on the DL. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be kind of quiet, hush, hush. And instead, with, the biolabs in Ukraine and the Burisma gas energy board and all the other things in Ukraine. And then you've got Rosemont Horizon Partnership Limited, where, John Kerry and his, what's her name? Teresa Hines, this old lady, and their son, and they're all partnered up with Hunter on this other venture in Shanghai and Guangzhou and China. And I mean, corruption abounds on a global scale. Call it a grand theft world. There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And we just came out of the chat room for Grand Theft World Liberty Radio with our friend, our mutual amigo, who lives in Acapulco, the Drizzle.
That's right.
Great guy. Yeah. So,
I work with him often. I actually am one of the news correspondents for Grand Theft World Liberty Radio News. High Yona, aka El Corresponsal. It's just correspondent in Spanish, but we keep it bilingual due to his Acapulco nature.
And yeah, you were man on the street for the Ohio spill, and I thought that was pretty brave. Yeah.
And did the coverage there at the Cause Fest, hanging out with Craig Pasta Jardula and Ryan Christian, representing for the home team down there in good old Cashville, Tennessee, back in June.
So what do you think? They're trying to bring it all back now. This is the boomerang, or do you think that they're actually doing that? Because from my estimates, I don't think I think that they know it's not going to work, and if they try it, it's going to get things on the streets a little bit hot, and so maybe they're really aiming for Civil War II.
Well, number one, it's coming back. Oh yeah.
They got a new vaccine.
And of course, the sequel is hardly ever as good as the original, and I think the important thing to keep in mind, my good friend, is fuck your freedoms and consent doesn't matter. And yeah, it's just going to be some fuck shit. Although, that being said, non sequitur, there are pockets of resistance. So again, because the last time around, it was kind of a patchwork, right? And even in all of our own communities, there have been people that have never stopped wearing the mask so hard. It's adorable, really. It's precious. You're adorable. But so the question is on the second rib and pushing all the new and improved juices and jabbing McJabs. It's how many takers are going to be this time? Well, what's the uptake going to be like this time? And because we've already seen a falling off, and I mean, even like some of my most dedicated fans that related through blood or marriage or both, that totally gung ho, that all of a sudden finally fell out of favor with it, which I never thought had happened. And so, and now they're really like sketch on it. And so I'm like you. I think that it's more they're rushing. They don't have the passing game. And every time they try to pass the ball, it's getting intercepted and legal challenges. So fuck it, they're just gonna run it. They're just gonna run the ball. They're just gonna run it, they're just gonna pound it on the ground right into the fucking end zone. Mandate, fuck you. You want your kids in public school, they gotta do this, or what's the fucking learn via Zoom school, via remote learning, the important thing is to make sure that we have a super duper scary variant that's totally going to necessitate another mail-in paper ballot election.
I don't think that even matters. I really don't think that matters. They got a computer system that'll say whatever the globalists really want anyway. So
considering the stellar, stunning, historic presidential ticket of Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris, over 81 million votes, the most popular political team in U.S. history, quixotically, paradoxically, as it were, somehow immediately turned into the most unpopular president and vice president of all time. And so I don't know how you make those two, you make it make sense. Anyway, totally not saying that it wasn't fake. But, I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. And
right,
yeah,
and then the most blatant, blatant tyranny too.
Revolution, right? I'm calling it the selfie stick revolution, where they went in between the velvet ropes and they had their guided tour, and they were taking selfies with the security, and Buffalo Head was walking around and just chit-chatting with the security. It wasn't anything like when the British stormed through Washington, D.C. Oh, when was it? Back on August the 24th, August 26th, 1814. Yeah, that was a shitty day when the British rolled through D.C. that day. They actually did burn the whole fucking town down, the Capitol and the White House and everything else. Of course, we had invaded Canada, so I could understand why the Canadians and the British did that to DC. But what happened on January 6th was I'm calling it the selfie stick revolution. Take a selfie, say cheese, motherfucker. And if you need to send an insurrection overnight to DC, just send it FedEx. Anyways, so in the midst of that set the context for hastily constructing, what was it, over 285 miles of concrete wall and razor wire in the span of 3 weeks. They slapped up and made a green zone around the federal militarized district, which, if you're not familiar with the federal militarized district, used to be known as our nation's capital. But anyways, by the time of the what used to be called inauguration, but well, that's what they called it this time. But anyways, so they have their ceremony, and everyone remembers like Bernie Sanders in the cold wind with his, mittens folded and his legs folded, sitting in the chair. That was the Bernie Sanders meme. But what was weird about that was, unlike when Cheeto Dick was inaugurated and there were pussy hats protesting, and people were allowed to be there. This time around, we had, what was it, like 34,500 U.S. troops in D.C. And, rather than put them up in hotels like, say you're FEMA and you've got to go help out in Lahaina, Maui, and there's all these beautiful condo beachfront hotel rooms, they don't have those in D.C. So they just had all the soldiers basically bivouac in concrete parking garages. I don't know if you remember that. Anyways, and the good thing is they were there for the so-called air quote inauguration, when all the troops marched up and down the street and installed the Biden-Harris regime. Did I say install? It was inauguration, even though only military in the tens of thousands were there to usher in the new regime, which up until the moment they took office had openly been expressing doubts about Trump's Operation Warp Speed and what the Donald himself characterized as, he said, they should call it the Trump vax. And I've seen the videos of them going to Biden and Harris, and they're like, Harris was like, I don't know if I really want to be the first one to try this Donald Trump Warp Speed Trump vax. I need proven science, and blah, blah, blah. And where's my SpongeBob narrator voice? 2 months later, as soon as them motherfuckers got in office, mandate, motherfucker. I don't care if it is an emergency use authorization. And we did a bait and switch with your community you never see for eternity. And the flim flam and the 3-card money. Man, there's so much fucking. And so after they did all of that, they never actually completely dialed it back. They never rolled it back. I mean, as we know, whenever they just endow themselves with brand new, super duper unconstitutional powers, well, that's a whole new tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, this group seems to be completely ignores all of the laws and everything like that. They're just blatant about it. It's one thing that we have the tyranny, but that they're not even trying to hide it, and that's the sad part, is that okay, they're punishing all of their enemies, which the other side could do better at that. They don't seem to do that whenever they get power, but that's because they're all really the same team. Yeah.
There's a definite point. There's a line that was crossed. There's a point at which I realized very clearly this shit is totally in your face. They don't give a fuck. And I can tell you exactly precisely where that point was. It was at a library in the United Kingdom, in the north side of London town itself. And it was one of these story time reading things with kids at the library. And the story time was being led by what I believe, let me get the name. Let me make sure I've got this name correct. It's Rainbow Dildo Butt Monkey Man. Rainbow Dildo Butt Monkey Man. Which is a great password if you're throwing a party. Rainbow Dildo Butt Monkey Man. Yeah, if you don't say that, you're not getting in. You take it up with the bouncers. But anyways, so, and then I saw the pictures and the videos of the swinging rainbow dildo and the ass cheeks on the rainbow furry rainbow dildo butt monkey man. I don't know what else. I don't know where to go from there. You know, I mean, that's when it was like smack, the epiphany. Like, oh wow, it's really in your face. I mean, for all you David Icke dot connectors out there, woo. I mean, there it is. You know, these demonic lizard fuck people are just taunting you at this point. And you know, and there's ample receipts. You look at the different patents and this other shit that's been run through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Oh, who's the guy with the bow ties? It looks like Mr. Six from the Six Flags commercials. Oh, David Burton. Yeah. He's done a bunch of shows about, you know, deep diving into the patents on the different pricky pricks and jabby McJabs and stuff, you know, which I want to be careful with my language because, you know, although YouTube is maybe let up a little bit, they're still kind of strict, and
I don't rely on, yeah. So I don't rely on YouTube. I put it out here, and if they take it away, they take it away, you know, but it ends up in my audio feed, and that's really where I would like to direct most people to go is the audio feed, because, you know, I was just showing some clips, some moments where I said something that was unusually funny. And I was showing some clips to a friend, and she's like, oh, I had to log in for that one. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I had to age restrict it because we said the F word one too many times or whatever. Because they started sending me messages afterwards and saying, we automatically, yeah. Go ahead.
It's for that reason with YouTube that I'm now on my 4th YouTube channel. But by all means, go over and subscribe to DJ High Yona, you know, and get me up to 25 subscribers. My God, I had over 2,000 at one time on the first channel. But whatever, man. So I've been putting all the stuff up on like Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute and, you know, other platforms. And what I fear is going to happen now, and I'm curious your take on this. Do you see this next round of lockdowns and censorship? Do you see like Rumble and Rockfin and other? Because we've already seen it with Discord getting rid of TLab and others. Do you see more of this ratcheting down of censorship? Like and maybe, you know, like Rumble is supposed to be this free speech platform, but do you see like Rumble getting deleting and censoring and yeeting people off Rumble? Maybe.
I don't see anything happening with Odyssey or BitChute. Odyssey and BitChute maybe could get attacked externally, you know, the way that they went after Parler. I could see something like that happening because they've already put Odyssey through some lawfare.
Right.
As far as Rumble goes, there are things you can't say on Rumble, and I've heard of videos getting taken down, especially stuff. Ryan Dawson's had some videos taken down off Rumble, and yeah, it'll happen. But I don't think that they have a strike system. I think they just take it off if they don't like it, and that's it. and they don't close your channel off of it, and they give you a chance to edit it without whatever is offending, which is, you know, I think
That's way
YouTube
better than
just,
YouTube.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
YouTube just gives you
YouTube
the
hardly.
death penalty sometimes. Sometimes
Oh
they'll
yeah,
just yeet you just off the rip.
I never intended for my YouTube to stay forever. And you know, I got really close. I was on my second strike, but they stopped they stopped striking you for talking about the selections. They were striking you hard for talking about the selections. So
Oh,
they got me on one. I knew that, so I was really careful about talking about it. And I forgot which. I think it was what is that guy's name? He's the Scottish
well,
guy.
what you're saying is 100% accurate. November presidential elections lead to December electoral college selections. And I rest my case, Your Honor. Prosecution, it's your turn.
Yeah, that. There you go. Yeah, and it's not anything like that. I was talking about Brazil, and they got me for talking about the United States, and I was like, no, I mean the CIA is involved in every single South American election. I mean that it proved me wrong. How about that? How about you
guess
prove me wrong?
what? Brazil has delegates and super delegates as well. You just can't get away from the corruption. I don't care what language, what country you go to. Money talks, bullshit walks. Take notes if needed. I'll talk slower.
Right. It was so that was a hot potato though, because they were, you know, they had Bolsonaro, and BRICS is something that I guess they're worried about. In fact, they're not worried about it because the World Economic Forum actually wants there to be two powers. They always run things with two because you know why it's two, right? So you don't have to pay a third party.
And did you like how they tried to create their own Brazil version of January 6th in Brasilia with the Bolsonaro government and everything, as they were bringing in the new Lula government? And you look at what Lula has done in wheeling and dealing with, well, amongst others, Christian Lagarde of IMF fame and the Bank of International Settlements, as well as cutting new deals with these massive monocrop operations by Monsanto Bayer Crop Science in Brazil. With
hey, what did he do?
Things of GMO corn and soy, where they're, you know, clear cutting and replacing with these massive monocrops. And you know what worries me about that the most is all of these GMO crops are now moving to well, what's the actual language they use there? Vaccine platform. You see, you can engineer vaccines into food, and it's great. It's wonderful. I mean, who needs consent when it's delicious? Yum, 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 yum. There you go.
Yeah, there's a university in California, UC Davis, and they're talking about making mRNA salads, and of course they're doing it. You know that it's getting into the meat, you know, from because they can inject them before they feed them to us. Now, that's the thing is Lula has been all for all that stuff. Bolsonaro, I remember him saying, I didn't take it and I'm not going to make people take it. And for that, there's several things about Bolsonaro that I really liked. Not that I think that any politician is real, but there's quite a few things that I liked about him, and a couple of things I didn't. Speaking of Israel, mix that with he's a huge Zionist. Other than that, pretty good.
You know, and of course, I would be remiss, before we leave the topic of Brazil and move on to something else. I actually sang a song in Portuguese, and it has Lula on the intro and then John Pilger on the outro, called Chega. I just re-uploaded it to Rumble like a week ago. But we don't have to do the Portuguese. Deixe so caro Jujo. But Yanchi no lava chato. But anyways, when we think about Brazil, one must keep in mind that just in the last 50 years of recent Brazil history, most of that time, Brazil has been under just a brutally oppressive U.S.-led military regime that has tortured people, disappeared countless people, tortured people, including Dilma Rousseff. And one of the people in Bolsonaro's cabinet was a military general that had actually tortured Dilma Rousseff, who, of course, was president, I believe, in the same party as Lula da Silva. But Dilma Rousseff, that is. And I believe she's the first female president of Brazil as well. But it's this history of military rule. And of course, Bolsonaro was a military officer, and much of his cabinet was cadre from the previous brutal regime. And so
I think it froze on his end because I don't see him moving, and I am. So, and it looks like my connection's still really good.
it's been, all right, here we go. Yeah.
Oh,
And
sorry,
so,
I lost you for a little bit there, Yona.
Sorry about that.
I lost you.
So what we see in Brazil is essentially the same thing we see in the United States. Even though they are pitched to the public as two different parties and they don't really mix, you see so much of this deeper state that just stays in place. And it doesn't matter if there's Democrat or Republican or conservative or liberal, as in the case of Brazil. It doesn't matter. The deep state slime just remains. The swamp is never drained. There's different people who get to captain their little remote control boats, but it's all for show. It's just the kiddie pool. It's not even the real sea or the adult pool. And it's just sad for me to see so many of my friends that have figured out so much, yet, bless their hearts, they want to talk to me about Bobby Kennedy Jr. or Cornel West or Marianne Williamson. And I can't fucking do it again, man. I don't write letters to Santa Claus anymore, and I don't look for Easter eggs anymore from Easter Bunny. I do still believe in Great Pumpkin. Shout out Great Pumpkin. But other than that, you learn to put the childish things away. And you may call them action figures, but you're playing with political dolls. They're fucking puppets. They're stuffed animals. It's infuriating to me to see people being so deluded when, I've literally been watching C-SPAN 3 when some idiot congressman or congresswoman from the state of Alabama, Yeah, I'm picking on you, Alabama. And they'll be doing the first reading of a bill, and they forget to take out the fucking boilerplates that the American Legislative Exchange Commission left on the fucking bill, because they're the ones that wrote it. You know, Alec. You know, because there'll be boilerplate on the beginning and end of the bill, and then they're reading the bill and they forgot to take the boilerplate out. You know, insert name here in this jurisdiction. Excuse me. In this 46th Congress of it's like, whoa, what just happened, man? Oh my God. You know, but I mean, you and I know how lobbyists and K Street work in terms of how the legislative sausage is made. And you know, on the legal end of things, money and bribery in politics has pretty much been legalized by the Supreme Court with the arguably two of the worst decisions they've ever made in, you know, Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission and McCutcheon versus FEC. You know, the Citizens United and McCutcheon rulings, hand in hand, basically say that money is free speech. And corporations are people. And so corporations are entitled to free speech when they give money to a 501c3. What do they call it? Super PAC. Yeah, super PAC funding. Dark money.
That's the thing too, is that every level on up to that is regulated like crazy, but whenever something makes it into becoming a corporation, it can just buy and sell government. And it's, you know, we talk about these politicians that are all owned by blackmail, but these corporations are too. You know, they put these guys up in front of operations. I mean, you know, we know that Bedbook was originally LifeLog, and they put Zuckerberg there for a reason. You know that Elon Musk has taken so much government money; it's insane. That, you know, they got something on all these people, and that's why they have big parts to play.
Blackmail? You know who owns all the blackmail? Well, that's BlackRock. And they own everything, right?
I thought it was the Mossad, you know, because
true that
of the Maxwell ties, and
well, yeah,
you
look at Robert Maxwell, and then his involvement with his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, which, you know, I don't know how far I would go into this, but it to me is again an indication of how they're really being hyperbolic and overplaying their hand, or how would you say, thou doth protesteth too much, right? When I've heard recently them saying that, well, Epstein totally killed himself. He's totally dead, and it was totally suicide, or maybe it was the
Trump and Tucker.
And I'm like, I don't believe any of that shit. I don't believe anything they say anymore. I mean, until I see an actual body, Epstein is as dead as Osama bin Laden to me. I need pictures. And, you know, at this point, even if I had pictures, how would I even know if they were real and not deep fake? I mean, it's getting hard to validate and authenticate bona fide shit anymore. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so Trump and Tucker just went on that thing, and Trump said he killed himself, and that was, you know, and it's funny though, because people haven't really got standards for him. You know, he does something and they make excuses for every single thing that he does, and The
I
thing
like it
is,
when
the
they
people.
asked Bill Gates about Epstein. They asked Bill Gates about Jeffrey Epstein, and his response was basically like, well, he's dead, so, you know. You remember that?
Yeah, I think they had dinner something like 36 times. They just
Yeah,
had dinner though. That was it, just dinner. You know, it required flying to a private island on a private jet, but it was only dinner.
really
Hey,
good
this is
food. Really good food, though, to be fair. Caribbean
it
jerk
was
with
pizza and hot dogs.
9/11
I'm sure. Yeah,
cheese pizza.
yeah, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Uh, yeah. So this system. So we were talking earlier about the people that just take it. I don't know why. Why do these people just take it? And originally, whenever we were going to do this, set the show up, you wanted to discuss Cherokee Medicine, and
Mhm.
I've noticed at the truck stops and the reses, because there's a lot of truck stop reses or res truck stops, however you want to put it.
Right.
They were super draconian with the compliance during that time. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that happened? I mean, these are people that were handed smallpox blankets at one point, and why would they go through it again? You would think that they would not be compliant to that, or I
Well,
would.
you see, you have to go back to the Indian Reorganization Act, and that's when these so-called tribal governments were set up to rule each reservation. Um, but they're not really tribal governments. It's called the Indian Reorganization Act because basically the United States Department of the Interior Bureau of Indian Affairs decided to take control of every single reservation and to have a local DOIBIA government on the ground that they would call tribal government. And they would control the casino revenues and everything else. Um, and that way, the federal government then has direct megaphone to each and every concentration camp. Because, I mean, the Navajo Reservation is a concentration camp where only Navajos are concentrated. The Lakota Reservation is a concentration camp where only Lakotas are found, not Cherokees or Navajos. Every single reservation, in fact, is still classified by the Department of Interior Bureau of Indian Affairs as a prisoner of war camp. Pine Ridge, South Dakota is prisoner of war camp 44. ECBI in the Smoky Mountains, POW camp 31. That's why I don't live on a reservation with my wife and kids. We live in the heart of the original Cherokee Nation. And I don't need recognition from the government. I don't need money from the government. I'm not moving to no reservation and fuck all that. Because it's basically, it's concentration camp where you just get nonstop level. They're turning it all the way up to Spinal Tap 11 on the amp with the propaganda. And, went down for homecoming in the Smokies recently, and it's just nonstop with the backs, nonstop with But I mean, remember when they first started giving out government cheese and government flour and government lard? I mean, one of the staples of Indian country when it comes to food is Zalgiki Kwadens, the fry bread,
Mm-hmm.
Bannock fry bread, and that's from United States fulfilling treaty obligations to feed the concentrated tribes on the concentrated camps and sending them lard and flour and so that's what fry bread is. It's just flour and water mixed together and fried in lard. Pretty much, that's it.
So yeah, they just pumped them full of institutional food that you know you can survive off of it, but you can't thrive off of it, and
And that's why the diabetes rate, high blood pressure, all that shit is terrible. And for example, I can't really speak to many other tribes, but I mean, at least with regards to the Eastern Cherokee Band, the Western Cherokee Band, the Kituwa Band, just recently, I say, was it in the late 80s, 89, 91, when Sequoia Health Systems had to take over the Cherokee hospitals there in Oklahoma because they were doing involuntary sterilizations and hysterectomies of Cherokee women, going in just for a routine pap smear, and they get put under general anesthesia and wake up without ovaries. I mean, it used to be called eugenics, but now it's like, I think, environmentalism or something. When we have to kill all you poors because we're saving planet Earth here, man. It's for a green cause.
Right. The shots themselves, they came from one of the groups. Obviously, Pfizer came from that's headed by CEO Albert Bourla, who invented this boar taint vaccine that keeps boars from going feral, because whenever a boar goes feral, it's a cute little pink pig, but then it gets out into the wild, and then its testosterone goes through the roof, and it becomes hairy and bigger and starts to grow horns and all kinds of stuff. So that's an inhibitor.
As Albert Bourla was able to pioneer, turns out you can just chemically castrate the boar and no more stinky boar taint. There you go.
Isn't that crazy? And this is the company that a lot of people trusted to just stick it in them.
There's a Japanese study that was conducted, I think it was in Kyoto or no, what's the other one? Not Tokyo. Osaka. That's where it was. Okay. It was a bioaccumulation study that they did in rats to see where does this stuff go after it's injected, into the arm, into the arm. So they injected in the rats. And much to their horror, they found out that the delivery vehicles inside these concoctions that are known as LNPs, that's a lipid nanoparticle. But it's the vehicle that carries the little code that is going to tell your cells what they need to build, which is the spike protein code. It's actually the modified ribonucleic acid that's inside the lipid nanoparticle. Anyways, the LNPs, when they studied the rats, they found out that they're accumulating in the testes and the ovaries, and that it's causing fertility issues, which is no surprise. Tain't no surprise coming from Bourla. So there you go.
Yeah, shout out to the Drizzle who's just made it to our chat. He just finished the rest of his stream.
Booyaka.
We were just talking about you a little bit ago. So yeah, so these germ warfare, as we put it, it's been going on for a really long time, and it wasn't just, it predated the smallpox. There was reasons that the bubonic plague was spread in areas too, that they tried to stick it in a variety of places and kill off populations, because it's the way to win wars. And
one thing that haunts me still to this day is I was watching this video And one of the guys taking the video, correspondent, oh, come on now. It's the famous dude. What's his name? I'll think of it. Stanley Kubrick. Okay. Turns out Stanley Kubrick went to Europe at the end of World War II and was there with the British Army film group taking film of the liberation of death camps and stuff like that. Heavy stuff from Stanley Kubrick, you know, who would, you know, Stanley Kubrick after this would later go on to make amazing movies like, you know, Clockwork Orange and 2001: A Space Odyssey, Eyes Wide Shut, right? So, anyways, back to these death camps and this liberation and stuff. When I'm watching this footage, shows them going into the town next to one of these death camps, Birkenwald or Dachau or something like that. Birkenwald is what it was. So they go into the town of Birkenwald itself, and they're asking the townspeople, you know, because when you get to the camp, it's just fields of just dead bodies piled up everywhere, like ricks of wood. You know, it's terrible. But so, you know, they're in the town and they're angry, like, hey, man, don't y'all know what's going on over there? Can't you smell the smell? Don't y'all people know what's going on? And this is what blew my fucking mind. Townspeople are like, listen, those people were being quarantined for their own health and for our health. They had the typhus, and we had to be protected from them because they hadn't been vaccinated. Now, here I'm watching this black and white footage from 1940 fucking 4 or something, and they're talking about quarantines and vaccines, and that's why and I'm like, oh my God, you know, like, geez, not again, man, no. Same fucking playbook, dude. Same fucking fascist playbook, man. They don't have an original. None of these evil motherfuckers have an original idea in their head, buddy.
They can't. That's how it works. It's always the same playbook. It's just like how everything that's going on right now in South Africa was exactly what happened in Russia in the beginning of that. It's like, hey, kill the productive. You know, that's an old playbook, and those things just constantly recur. And I think, you know, it's based off of, you know, that's the god they worship. They worship the devil, and you know, and they don't get original things from that source. They get the same evil playbook. Yeah.
I'm really curious. We've seen one shoe drop with the much heralded leader of the Russian mercenary group, the Wagner group, as it were, in the name of Prigozhin, where his plane was blasted out. They literally shot the fucking wings off and bland. But here's my proposition to you, my query, as it were. Now that shoe is dropped and Prigozhin's been rubbed out, as they would say, as the mobsters in New Jersey would say, he got whacked. He got whacked. But anyways, do you see the other shoe dropping eventually, and poor old Cokie Smurfs getting the old hook off stage?
Who's Cokie Smurf?
Koki Smurf would be Voldemort Zelensky, the current
Oh,
TV president. He leads the government in Kyiv or whatever, however you pronounce it now, in Ukraine.
Queef.
Kyiv or I don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I still call it Kiev, but the news is trying to make everybody say Kiev, but Queef.
Queef, yeah, it's Queef now.
It's Queef.
KWYYV or something. Queef.
Yeah. So yeah,
still depends now.
Classic story there. You know, so many people that the United States have rubbed out have they started off as allies that the United States was funding and giving military aid to. This one, though, I don't know if it won't be the United States is going in there to fight them and fight him or anything like that. They'll just put him in a bad spot. And they're already putting him in lots of bad spots. They control what's going on there. The army there is just getting destroyed.
Well, I'm just waiting for one of the I'm just waiting for one of those right sector type goons to just pull the plug on Zelensky, and then, you know, the U.S. and European media can then hyperventilate about how Putin just rubbed out Zelensky, and now we need to do even more to fight Russia to the very last Ukrainian is alive.
And that is the point, by the way. That's really the goal of this whole situation. They want that land cleared. Guess who gets it whenever everything's over? Oh, Larry Fink.
Yeah. Jeez.
We don't even. The United States doesn't even get a return on that investment.
About, land. Because, you know, I'm a land surveyor by trade and profession. And I even saw people as they were discussing what's happened recently in Maui about how, you know, by the way, there is an entire whole ass island that Larry Ellison owns out there. Good luck pronouncing it. It's got 4 Ks and 2 vowels. But anyways, Kania Oak. I don't speak Hawaiian. I'm not going to try it. But you know what I'm talking about.
I think it's whatever Hawaiians say to say I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thought so. Yeah.
Kanahoke? Something like that. Kanahoke or yeah, it's something like that.
Is it that song? Is it really named after that song from?
Yeah, it's a massive island, and I'm like, Hawaii is a people. Hawaii is a First Nation. How in the fuck did Mr. Google end up owning one of the entire fucking Hawaiian Islands? Square that circle for me. Anyway.
How did Oprah get all that land for $6 million? She got over 100 acres.
For me to convince my landlord that we need a blue roof.
I'm looking into it right now. That's really funny though.
It's
really
fun.
funny.
That's what I love about our fam. You know, all across the different channels where we all meet up, man. That's what I love about our fam. We don't let the shit get to us. You know what I'm saying? We take it, you know, with a little bit of salt, a grain of salt, and a little bit of sense of humor. Because
that's when you lose. We've got the odds stacked against us completely. But if they can actually demoralize you, because they take part in a lot of operations to do that. But if they can actually demoralize you, you've lost. You're nullified. You're out. So so that keep good spirits. And uh, right now is not the time. It doesn't look like, at least, but eventually humanity's going to win. We're going to beat the lizards back and take the world back, or not.
There can be no rule of law when we are overruled by the lawless, and subsequent to that, there can be no sovereignty. It just becomes a bunch of global cartels operating in and out of different countries. And so, what I see in the future for Americans in particular is rather disconcerting, because when you go, like I have, teaching in other, like, I taught in Ecuador for 2 years, but I mean, when you go to other countries where the U.S. regularly just gallivants around and just snatches people off the street and wherever, and name your country, and they just gagged and bagged people and threw them in a fucking van, and they just disappeared. In whatever country, doesn't matter. And so we're not really used to seeing that or being aware of that so much in the United States. Although Mossad and other intelligence agencies do that in the United States regularly. It's about to get really out of hand with the loss of respect for national sovereignty when it comes to I'll call it international law enforcement officers, because they've been brought into the United States in unprecedented numbers, over 100,000 now on these visas for long-term training. Training in what? What the fuck do we need blue helmets for? That's probably have 50 National Guards in 50 states. And again, they don't even try to hide what they're doing. And I mean, if you go back and look at the repeated exercises, like I don't know, what are they up to now? Operation Jade Helm 9. I mean, they keep drilling for this stuff. Myself, full disclosure, I was a Arabic linguist in the United States Army back in 1993 and 94. Long, many full moons ago. And so, my experience has been particularly watching the complete privatization of the military. Because, where the military used to make everything and do everything and feed everything and house everything and clothe everything itself. At the time I got out, when I got my DD-214, I would say it was about maybe 25 to 30% privatization, depending on what MOS you're talking about. Now it's the other way around. In some MOSs, there's less than 10% active duty service members, and all the rest of the gaps are filled with khaki and crappy and Z and triple canopy and just on and on and on with the fucking mercs and private. Because the whole thing about it comes down to expendability and accountability. Because when you're dealing with private mercs and everything, you no longer have to go through the manual of court martials and deal with the Uniform Code of Military Justice and whole fucking judge adjutant generals and court proceedings and stuff. Just look at the Nisour Square shootout with khaki and Blackwater. They've been taken to court, I don't know, 3-4 times, and it just keeps getting swatted out of court. Whoosh, whoosh. Untouchable.
The other thing is,
and in International Criminal Court in The Hague has tried to bring charges against them. And the last time they tried to do that, the United States on CNN and MSNBC openly threatened bombing The Hague. I shit you not.
wow. Wow. So
You want to indict some of our officers and soldiers? We'll just bomb the Hague. Fuck the
back
ICC is what
back
the
to
state.
the
Anyway, sorry.
Zelensky and
Huh.
Ukraine. You were talking about the military police getting trained in the United States. They're also training a bunch of military from Ukraine in the United States right now. Funny enough, they're scooping up every 14-year-old they can off the streets there and putting them out on the front lines with a rifle. But they have a whole bunch of them here ready to use. I think I don't think they're ever going back to the Ukraine,
Nope.
and I think that
And of
they'll
course,
bust them out.
the 101st Airborne, which is based in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the Pukin Buzzards, they've been over there training in Ukraine since the overthrow of the Yanukovych government by the installed Poroshenko regime. I'm just trying to think of the name of the town over there. It's over in the western end of the Ukraine. Oh, my brain's gone to mush here. Let's see here. It's not Kharkiv, I don't think. It's something else. Oh, it's with a. Is it Lviv? Lviv. Lviv. That's it. Just outside of Lviv, huge base where the 101 AB has been doing training with them since 2014. Yeah. And, so every single opportunity to bring about peace and détente and, diplomatic solutions has been vigorously fought against. I mean, there's been 2 different Minsk Accords. I mean, they've tried everything. And this is about selling weapons, ultimately, because when you look at Russia and the United States, it's not a good guy, bad guy situation here. United States is the world's #1 arms dealer. Russia's #2. So we're talking about the #1 and #2 merchants of death worldwide when it comes to missile systems, bomb systems, tanks, armored vehicles, rifles, assault weapons, special weapons,
It's
the
some
kind that
gangster shit.
are
Yeah.
illegal, kind of illegal, and so that's what this really comes down to. It's a great demonstration project. I mean, that's one reason why Israel is able to market so much of their weaponry, because they can literally say, hey guys, we tried this out on some Palestinian daycare centers. Works great. Melts babies right into the concrete. Best white phosphorus mix we've ever packed into a bombshell. Battle tested, civilian proven. I mean, because it's ultimately, again, it just comes down to money talks and bullshit walks. These people have no conscience. They have no empathy. They're like super predators. And my God, I sound like the Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden speech during the 1994 crime bill. But anyway, these people don't give a fuck. They got more money than God, and money is worth more than poor people, and too many poor people on the earth anyways. I'm doing the Lord's work here. That's the way. And, if you think in that psychotic realm, I guess it all does make sense. But for normal human people with, like, I don't know, feelings and morals and shit, it's just abhorrent. It's unimaginable. But the depravity, as you pointed out, it's been going on for a long time. I mean, General Jeffrey Amherst was literally writing in orders. The originals are in the Library of Congress. You can see the scans at loc.gov, where Amherst is writing orders to Colonel Henry Bouquet at Fort Pitt to distribute the smallpox blankets to help extirpate this execrable race. Glowing words, stunning words. Great, great choice words. Go all the way back to 1604 in London, England, when Dr. John Potts graduates from the Oxford School of Medicine as a bona fide European trained doctor. And then in 1606, John Potts boards the Susan Constant with John Smith and John Rolfe, and they sail to the New World, to Chesapeake Bay, and they found Jamestown. You know, John Smith ends up fucking Pocahontas. Spoiler alert. But it's John Potts who is the village doctor of Jamestown, who is literally an Oxford trained fucking physician. You can't get anything better in the New World in 1607 than to have John Potts, Oxford class of 1604, right there on hand. So, of course, fast forward after, what was it, 1623, so 1607, 17. So about 15, 16 years into the Jamestown colony settlement, they committed so many atrocities against the Powhatan Confederated tribes, like the Cocotans and Chinetiques and Chesapeakes and Assateagues and Paspahags and the rest of them, that they all bound, you know, they all ally up together. They bring in the friends like the Tuscaroras down in North Carolina and the Lumbees, and they bring in the Lanai, Lenape, and the other Delaware tribes. And this is 1623, and so they launch a counteroffensive. All of the locals there in Janecomaca, which, of course, the English speakers renamed Janecomaca Virginia. But 1623, they kicked ass. Burnt half of their new settlements down and had them, you know, I mean, I think killed over more than half of all the English-speaking settlers were killed there in 1623. The massacres is what they call it. And so finally they sued for peace. So you end up with this peace conference, and there's over 200 of Pocahontas's blood relatives there. And John Potts makes a special peace punch for everyone to drink, except him and the homies. They're drinking a similar looking punch, but a different batch. And so John Potts, Oxford School of Medicine, class of 1604, totally fucking Jonestown Pocahontas's, 200 of Pocahontas's relatives, killing them. They all fell dead within 6 hours of deliberate poisoning by the punch that Potts made. And so at every turn, the greatest, most brilliant minds of European medicine, Western medicine, was used to effect genocide as much and as fast and as large as possible. And through the trial and error method in the last 400 years, America has become the world leader and expert in genocide. And so it was only a matter of time until it was time to finally cull their own herd and genocide their own flock. You know, I've been doing this deep dive on John D. Rockefeller and the eugenics movement. And, you know, there was a time when they completely held the courts in sway and had judges ordering sterilizations and lobotomies and everything else of people that just totally unconstitutional, barbaric, and unfair things happening in the not so distant past. Even as recent as the 70s and 80s. And the thing about it is like the Carrie Buck case with the forced sterilizations. They're still doing that now. Yeah, and again, it's not everywhere. It's not every single jurisdiction. It's not every judge. But yes, there are still forced sterilizations, forced vasectomies being ordered by the courts. And, it's normally part of a plea bargain deal because the American criminal injustice system is characterized by the lack of trials by jury, in lieu of most of them being plea bargains where the prosecutor or the DA or whoever is like, listen, son, we got 15 charges against you, even though 12 are bullshit. But we got 15 charges against you, and we'll drop the 12 bullshit charges and just charge you with 3, and then you can plead guilty and have probation for 4 years. And an ankle monitoring bracelet. Because freedom.
Yeah, that's how the damn system works. And yeah, these mass callings seem to coincide with a lot of these things throughout history have been almost ritualistic. So
I mean,
you
isn't
know,
that what the American Civil War was? And it seems
yeah,
obvious to me they're doing everything they can to try to provoke or at least give the appearances that there's an actual civil war, even if they're arming and supplying the bodies on both sides to have their staged war. I just don't see it, in the event of warfare breaking out. I see it more as a USSR became 15 countries. Yugoslavia becomes balkanized into Slovenia and Croatia and Bosnia and Serbia and so on and so forth. Because I've never seen the United States ideologically, dialectically, in reality, so completely divided. But, the United States, I don't think was ever really supposed to be one monoculture, one mono nation. It was originally in Articles of Confederation where you had free and independent states that would share in the common defense, but beyond that, all powers and everything was reserved to the individual states. I mean, that's in the Constitution. I mean, and instead, what we have now is just this super duper federal super government where the FEMA doesn't even recognize individual states anymore. They just read lines and cut the country into like 10 districts. I mean, this is crap, man. It's total crap. So, if there is, in fact, warfare to come in the future, I see it as a balkanization and a reestablishment of state sovereignty. But that doesn't make me a states' writers, one for states' rights, so to speak, because there's flaws with that system. To me, there are fundamental changes that need to be made with regards to how economics and self-sufficiency cannot be disambiguated from sovereignty. You can't claim to be sovereign, but then have all of your military hardware, have all of your bread, have all of your food, and have all of your water, and have all of your electricity, for example, all being imported from somewhere else. Well, then how can you be sovereign if you can't even make your own toilet paper to wipe your own ass with? I mean, there's just basic shit to me to where basic elements of an economy that you cannot separate from sovereignty. And where you have elements of economy that are tied up in sovereignty itself, to me, then the discussion about tariffs and taxes and everything is totally different at that point. Because yeah, we should make it more expensive for imported toilet paper than for domestic toilet paper, because by God, I don't want to be in a wartime situation where they say, fuck you, American GI, wiping your ass with your hands. What are you going to do? You know, there are, maybe it's a shitty example, but, you know, I mean, the point being, there are certain things that you need to be able to do for yourself. And, you know, like I've heard to mention full fuck ram ass army or whatever his name is, talking about how we need to do what we can to make our own semiconductor chips in the United States, and lamenting the fact that so much innovation and high-tech manufacturing has been offshored from the United States. But when you look at global trade and global corporations, they don't give a fuck what flags are on the flagpole out in front of the fucking headquarters, because they've got numbered Swiss bank accounts, they've got Cayman bank accounts. If they're a cruise ship industry, you know, they've got, what is it, Panamanian flagged ships with fucking Filipino crews making $2 an hour. I mean, and that's the cruise ship industry, just an example. You know, these global corporations don't give a fuck about sovereignty. That to me, if there were to be warfare, oh, it's going to be about sovereignty, all right. And it's going to be the war to end sovereignty so that we can finally consummate and usher in good global governance. Yay! Thanks, Ubermenchies. Thanks, Ubermentions.
Damn. Yeah, this all the stuff, it seems to be started onto these false scarcities, and this is what's preached at us all the time: is that there's this is scarce, that's scarce. You know, you were talking about how that area was conquered with punch. I was on a bike trip in eastern Colorado, and so I passed by the museum of the Sand Creek Massacre, and
yes. Colonel
and
Chivington, what a piece of shit he was.
and I'm looking at this place and nobody's using it. There's maybe 50 people in that town. And that whole area, eastern Colorado, is very, very unpopulated. It's, you know, there's a lot of cows. But yeah, there was sugar beets for a time there, but most of the people have moved out. It's a lot of ghost towns, and I'm like, so eradicated all these people for more space that's not even being used. And that's another thing about this false scarcity. There's always issues with people claiming that the population's too high. I'm out on the road all the time, and the only place the population's high is the cities.
Yeah.
The rest of the place, that's population's great, and everywhere else.
My God, driving around West Virginia, it's just most of West Virginia is just complete bum fuck ass Egypt. There's nothing but an ecosystem there, not humans. It's already been depopulated, other than Charleston and Wheeling and Morgantown and a few cities. You get out of town and there's absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. I think the total population of the entire state of West Virginia, not even 2 million. What is it, like 1,700,000? And West Virginia is one of the few states in the union every year, year after year, just keeps losing population. And, you know, West Virginia is a place where you're from, not a place where you live. I mean, technically, I don't technically live and sleep in West Virginia anymore. I live on the north bank of the Ohio River, directly across from West Virginia, because it's too expensive to live in Huntington. It's cheaper to live in Ohio. So there you go. But where I'm at here in Huntington, it's basically one city that lays on top of 3 states. And so part of Huntington is in Kentucky, Part of Huntington is in Ohio, and the rest of it is in West Bagad, Virginia.
Yeah, it's interesting how they do that. Um, did you want to close this out with the Bad Narek song?
Yeah, but before we do that, as a treat for your viewers here on the Doom Kitchen number 40, Lordy, Lordy, look who hit 40. Um, Before we go to the Starts Fires remix there, where Richard Grove leads off the song, I'm going to do this little live number. It's about 2 minutes long. This is for Hunter Biden, our good friend Hunter Biden. Like, you know how Bernie Sanders says, my good friend Joe Biden. Anybody still feeling the burn? Oh, man. All right, so this song is called White House Crack Pipe. So let's see here. And here it goes. I got this new job thanks to my pop. 80 grand a month and the champagne don't stop. The coke and the horse, widows of love, charisma, gas, energy before ripping up. I run the most dead, somebody gives me head. Cell phones and laptops record what we said. Sleep Blazer 2, Bob and I run through American monarchy crew. Dollars and cents, public relations defense, Arkansas daughter across the White House fence. Deplatform true speech, corruption is beyond reach. Smuggler and affluenza, the full Robin Leach. White House crack pipe, deep throat circuits, smack that ass puppy, gone and worthless. For Pornhub, from the Pennsylvania Avenue bathtub, pushing a crack slug. Now roll out my red rug. I got this new job thanks to my pop. 80 grand a month and the champagne don't stop.
Love it.
Based on true and actual events, folks. Based on truth. and now we can do the
plugs.
the endings here and plugs and clips and links and stuff.
Yeah.
And finish out with Michael Bagnerick. Rest in peace, Michael. Always in our hearts. Anyways.
So yeah, let's get some plugs, Yona. How do people find your great work?
All right, so the main place to keep up with me is my Rumble channel, my Bandcamp channel, and Manufacturing Reality. So let's start with the journalism. If you'll go to manufacturingreality.org. That's Grand Theft World Liberty Radio website there. In the pull down, you'll see flavors. And Yona is down there with grounded history. And that's where you'll see all the articles that I write with Grand Theft World and some of the vlogs with the agent stories and the other stuff that Drizzle helps put together. And then for my music side, all that DJ High Yona music that you're just fiending for, go over to HIGHYONA. That's highyona.bandcamp.com. And as it stands right now, I have everything over there totally for free download. But if you'd like to donate money, by all means, please. I need it. And then let's see, we've also got rumble.com if you'll look for High Yona, the Peasants Podcast, right? High Yona with the lowercase, Peasants Podcast. That channel is actually called The Peasants Podcast because, of course, after YouTube yeeted my first 3 channels, I had to go to alternative places. And I also upload my music to BitChute under DJ High Yona and to Odyssey under DJ High Yona and Yona Aniwodi. Sometimes I put shit up on Twixter or X Twitter or whatever the fuck you call it now, and Facebook and everything else, because I do talk to Nana and my auntie and uncle and Peepaw and them on Facebook every now and then. Hi, Facebook. It's kind of turned into MySpace, really. That's where you can find me on the what do they call it? The social medias. On Twitter, my handle is Daniel S. Anselmo. Just don't dox me. My name's Yona. Oh wait, I just doxed myself. So that's pretty much it. And of course, if you're online on Rockfin or YouTube at a lot of these different shows, a lot of times you'll see the High Yona in and around and about, but if you want to reach out to me, you can always email me directly at Yona Aniwodi, YONAANIWODI at the Yahoos. And that's pretty much it. It's a real being on here with you, buddy. And I just I feel like our community just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and our reach is getting further and further. And I hope you don't ever get discouraged and feel like people aren't getting this stuff, because it is getting out there. It really is.
Yeah, I think, hey, just put something out that I like and see who else likes it, and hopefully people can get in touch with me. I have, TheDoomKitchen at protonmail.com. I would love to hear from people. I never hear from people, but I see you listening. I can see the numbers, and I'm wondering if it's real or if it's just all my handlers and feds and whatever that are just, making sure that I'm not saying anything too crazy so they can show up to my house at 6 a.m. and not find me because I'm always out trucking.
We're putting on a good show regardless of the audience.
Exactly.
Go have another donut, guys.
Hey, we're good people. Don't do anything bad, you guys.
I'm telling you,
all right,
I've thought about it before. Next time I come up on some extra money, I'm sending some pizzas over to the Fusion Center just because Yona got love like that.
So in 2004, there was a libertarian presidential candidate, and his name was Michael Badnarik. He was awesome, everything that you could possibly want from a libertarian presidential candidate, and a lot more. The guy actually knew his stuff. He did a lot of lectures explaining to people how the Constitution works, and the Libertarian Party, being what they are, didn't really give too much attention to the fact that we lost Michael last year. But Richard Grove did, and that was one of those things where it's, I remember voting for him in 2004. I was nuts for Badnarik. I had a sticker on my Hyundai Elantra, right next to my InfoWars sticker. But Michael's no longer with us. He was a great guy, and a couple weeks ago, about a week or so ago, I was talking to Yona, and Yona said, "Hey, give me an idea for a song," and I said, "Hey, it's been about a year since we lost Badnarik. Maybe something with that." And he threw this together. You ready? Here we go.
And thanks again for the suggestion. We miss you, Michael. Always in our hearts.
R.I.P. Great man. All right. Later on, everybody, playing you out with the Education.
As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life.
So I came and went and she held my hand inside. And I'm sorry I ever took you for granted. God, you're so pretty when you're mine. So I came and went and she held my hand in silence. God, you're so pretty when you're mine. And I'm sorry I ever took you for granted.
Live from the 304.
Does it make sense that our American government has the authority to violate the Constitution? No, that's a contradiction in terms. How do we define what our government is? We define it by the Constitution. Article 1 tells you everything there is to know about Congress. Article 2 tells you everything there is to know about the President, Vice President. Article 3 tells you everything there is to know about the Supreme Court. Articles 1, 2, and 3 create and define the legislative, executive, and judicial branches respectively. Do they have the authority to just add power? Can Supreme Court judges say, well, we're going to do this now? Can the President of the United States say, well, I really haven't been busy enough, and so I'm going to assume the authority to write executive orders and make law for 300 million Americans? Does that sound constitutional to you? It's not. Most of what your government does is unconstitutional. This is your government. It's your constitution. These are your rights that the government is violating. They're putting it in paper. And we, the people, are allowing it to happen. I'm not happy about that. I want to change what my government is doing. I want to limit the power of my elected officials. Now, the Founding Fathers have already given us the instrument to do that. They've already given us the Constitution. Whose job is it to enforce the Constitution? The only thing that gives the Constitution any strength, any authority, is we the people. Everybody wants liberty. Everybody wants their individual rights. Where does liberty live? Does liberty live in the have freedom of speech because somebody wrote the First Amendment back in 1791? No, I have freedom of speech because the government's not big enough to shut me up. I have freedom of speech because, damn it, these are my rights. Nobody gives me my rights. Nobody tells me what I can or cannot say. Nobody tells me where I can or cannot say it. I am one of we the people. The government works for me. We the people have rights. We give the government privileges. And we can take those privileges away anytime we the people have the courage to do so. I am hoping that liberty lives in your heart. You and I are the ones that have the responsibility of confining government power, of reining in their authority, telling them what they can or cannot do. And just because they've written a piece of paper, just because a bunch of guys in jackets and ties have signed it, null and void. It's repugnant to the Constitution. And it doesn't mean anything. It only means what we the people allow it to mean. So, basically, we the people are the source of all political power. We have the responsibility of deciding where that power flows. And hopefully, we the people will have the courage to make the future United States better than it is right now.